Hey everybody, I just wanted to do a little video about service dog etiquette and rules for the general public to follow in regards to service dogs. um, you may or may not know that I am actually training Cosmo to be my service dog. And here he is. Hi baby. What's up, good boy? What's up, good boy? Yes. He's doing really, really well at it. Ooh. And I'm really happy with his progress. He's going to be a great service dog for me once he is fully trained. But there's just a couple things that I've run into with the general public while I've been out and about working with him that I wanted to address. And the first rule, I would say, is actually it goes for any dog you might encounter that you are not familiar with. And that is, you never, ever should just walk up to a dog and start petting it if you don't know that dog. The reason being, you don't know if that dog is aggressive. You don't know if that you're going to stress the dog out. You don't know, is that dog comfortable with strangers? Maybe that dog doesn't like having its ears scratched. You don't know. That's the point. You don't know this dog and how they're going to react to a random person just coming up to them and touching them. There's plenty of people that don't like to be touched by random people. I'm one of them. Like, you wouldn't just walk up to a random person on the street and start, touching their face and whatever. No. And the same goes for a dog. You just should not do that. Hold on 1 second. Sorry about that. Had to go investigate why the cat was making noises. Anyway, so yeah, never ever just come up and start touching any dog that you don't know. Second rule is that it's even stronger, harder, faster rule for service dogs, because by you coming up and touching that dog or even just speaking to the dog, you're distracting that dog from doing its job. And, in some cases, it's a bigger deal than others. Like, there was a story that I read recently about a young woman who has a seizure alert dog. And someone had come up and started talking to her dog and petting the dog. And the dog was so distracted by the attention that it was receiving from this other person that he was unable to warn this young woman that she was about to have a seizure. And that could have had very serious consequences for her. Like, if she had fallen and hit her head, she could have sustained some really serious injuries. So, you don't want to distract a service animal from doing their job. It's, using another example with people, you wouldn't walk into an operating room where someone you cared about was being operated on and start talking to the surgeon about, the football game or, what's his favorite movie or anything. You wouldn't do that. You want that surgeon's full concentration on what he's doing so that he can do the best possible job and take care of your loved one. Well, that's essentially what a service animal is doing. They are doing a job. They are trying to take care of and help their person. So by coming up and talking to them or touching them, you're being a distraction and you are inhibiting that animal's ability to do their job. Now, in some cases, people may not mind if you pet their dog, but you should always, always, always ask. And I don't want Cosmo to be petted, especially right now, just because he's in training. And, his full job is to learn how to be a service dog and perform the duties that I need him to perform. So he's even concentrating probably more than he will be when he's actually working, because he really wants to please me and make me happy, and he's so concentrated on listening to me and following my commands and making me happy by doing what I need and want him to do, that needs to get his full attention. And he could potentially backslide if he gets distracted. In the future, once he's fully trained, I may change my mind about having people pet him, but you should still always ask. And sometimes a service dog on their harness or jacket or whatever it is they wear may have a patch or something that says, friendly, please ask to pet. Okay, awesome. So you still wouldn't just go up and randomly start petting him, but you could ask the person, oh, hey, is it okay if I pet your dog? And other dogs will have a patch that says, do not pet, or, do not distract, or maybe even like do not acknowledge. And in those cases, you don't even ask. Do not even ask. The handler does not want you to touch their dog. They, just, no, don't. And right now, Cosmo's jacket has do not pet patches on it because I need him to focus. And I've only had one person who's attempted to pet him since I've had the do not pet patches on there, and it was a young kid. Which, of course, I gotta give a little more leeway to young kids. Maybe they've not encountered a service animal before, and, don't know the rules. So that's another thing. If you are a parent, and it may not come up until, you actually encounter a service dog out in public, but when that happens, you want to educate your children on what to do and what not to do when they come across a service dog. And still, rule number 1 applies to any dog when you're teaching your children how to behave around animals. But then again, more especially with service dogs. And I do hear a lot of parents when I'm out in public with Cosmo say, oh no, you can't pet that dog, he's working. Which is great, and I, really appreciate it. And a lot of times, if I can, I'll give the parent a smile and a nod, or say thank you. I really do strongly appreciate it when I'm hearing parents educating their kids about service dog etiquette. And you don't want to just be like, no, don't pet that dog. You want to offer an explanation. Why? And I don't have any problem talking to people about Cosmo, about his training, about the job he's going to do, and just kind of educating the general public about service dogs in general, because a lot of people just haven't encountered them and may not know what is polite or impolite. It's definitely not impolite, at least to me, to ask questions. I appreciate it so much, actually. If you want to learn more about service dogs, I will be happy to take a minute or two from what I'm doing to educate you about it. No problem whatsoever. And now, next thing is, you never should try to pass off a dog who is not a service dog as one. You might have an extremely well-behaved animal and think, oh, hey, I want to take my dog with me everywhere too. So I'm going to, get a cheap little harness or jacket and put some patches on it, and I'm going to take my dog with me places. That's not okay, for a lot of reasons. One is service dogs are very, very highly trained to ignore distractions, and that includes other dogs and other people. And it'll be obvious pretty quick if I were to be out in public and say at a restaurant, and I had Cosmo with me, and another person claiming to have a service dog, walked by my table, and their dog just makes a beeline for Cosmo and starts trying to make friends, or even worse, fighting. It's going to be obvious to me like that is not a trained service animal. And there's a big misconception out there about, business, can't deny you service, and, must allow your service dog in their facilities under any circumstances. And in 99.9% of the time, that is the case, except if your dog is being a nuisance. Then they can ask you, or at least ask the dog to be taken out. And if you legitimately have a service dog, no, you cannot be denied service or access to any place where the general public is not allowed to be. And that includes restaurants. Service dogs are considered an extension of the person, therefore they are not considered pets. So they are allowed anywhere the general public is allowed to go. But, trying to pass off a service dog or a non-service dog as one who is just not smart and could potentially get you into a lot of trouble. And it's against the law. So just don't do it. It's not worth the consequences that could come of it. So please just don't. Just bad things could happen to you and your animal, especially considering if there was a fight between another dog, or, your dog somehow caused injury to somebody, that could potentially lead to your dog being euthanized, which nobody wants to have happen. And service dogs are highly, highly, highly trained to listen only to their handler and ignore distractions so that, things like that don't happen. Another thing is service dogs are not required to wear anything that identifies them as a service animal. So I do have a pack for Cosmo. He does wear it when we're out in public. But he's not required to have that. As long as he is being well behaved and I have control over him, you don't have to have anything stating that he is a service dog. Now, it's kind of common sense that people really should have something for their dog to wear that states that they are a service animal. Especially if, say in the case of a seizure dog, a lot of times they're trained to protect their handler when they're having a seizure and shortly afterward until they kind of come around and come out of it. And that could mean, laying next to them, laying across them, potentially keeping other people away from their handler. So, in a situation like that, if paramedics or somebody were to show up and the dog doesn't have any identification and the paramedics aren't able to get anywhere near this person to try and help them, chances are they're going to end up calling animal control, and your dog could, end up being taken to the pound or wherever, and that's just a hassle that nobody needs. So while it's not required, I highly, highly, highly recommend that if you do have a service dog, you have some sort of identification on them that states that they are a service dog, even if it's just a tag on a collar. That's better than nothing. Service dogs are also not required to be on leash as long as the handler has good control over them. And the reason for that being, if somebody has like a balance problem, there is the potential for, if the dog for some reason pulled on the leash a little too hard, that could cause a fall for the handler, and which could potentially cause serious injury. So if you see a service dog that's not on leash, don't even say anything, don't get snippy with the handler. It is not a requirement for that dog to be on leash. Regardless of leash laws, there's probably a very good reason that a service dog wouldn't be on leash, as in the example that I gave you. And for businesses, you are allowed to ask if the animal is a service animal if they come into your establishment, and you are allowed to ask what duties the animal performs. You are not allowed to ask about the person's medical condition, and you are not allowed to deny the person service or access to your business, even if you don't believe that it's a service dog. If somebody says it's a service dog, end of discussion. You have to allow them in. That is the law. And you can be fined for denying service to someone with a service animal. And you are also not allowed to ask for any documentation showing that it's a service animal, nor would I be obligated to show you any documentation saying that it's a service animal. Now, there are cards available that handlers can carry with them that you can hand to anybody at a business, or even just, someone in the general public, that lists off laws regarding service animals and what businesses are allowed and not allowed to do in regards to service animal and their handlers. And so if you have a service animal, that is something that, again, I highly recommend that you carry with you. Just so it's just another educational tool. You never know when it might come in handy. And one other recommendation I would have for handlers is to have a sticker or something on your car that says service animal on board. That way, if you were to ever get into an accident and you were unconscious, first responders would know that your dog is special and needs special attention, and they could even, if the dog was uninjured, they could even bring the dog to the hospital with you in an ambulance. It's just another, just for the safety of your best buddy, just so that anybody who might respond to an accident knows that your dog is special and needs special care and attention, and might be just highly amped up and anxious because they're worried about you. It just lets people know that, hey, this dog isn't trying to hurt anybody. It's just doing its job. So I hope that this video is helpful to anybody out there. Please feel free to share it on all of your social media if you like. The more the word gets out, the better it's going to be for those of us with service animals, and those of us who could encounter a service animal out in the world, which is really anybody. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I'd be happy to answer them. And I hope you all have a great day. And remember, Don't distract them. Bad, bad, bad. Don't do it. Bye.